it's important to embrace it and to process and embrace all the cultural programming, the fears or whatever that might come up with it. Am I going to get fat? Am I going to lose my thin waist? Am I going to, am I still going to be sexy? What the hell? It's like, this is all cultural metaphor. It's programming. So, and I think, yeah, just embrace and hold that space for what the new that comes out of this beautiful being.
Há quem veja o invisível, há quem faça o impossível. Depois de tudo, alguma coisa vem dizer que tudo bem.
Welcome to the Menopause Retro Journeys, a series where I get together with women from all kinds of walks of life, different backgrounds, and we get to go back to their menopause years and go through, share a little bit about their stories, the ups and downs, and not only. What I really want to get out is the little gems and pockets of wisdom that these women have experienced during those years, and especially if we can, by connecting the dots, going back to see if that was moments, those years was a time in their lives that new ways of being, kind of new trends emerged that marked the second half of their lives. So I'm your host. My name is Ioanna Matsouli, and my dear guest today is Christiane Seuhs-Schoeller. Is that good?
Very good.
Okay.
Perfect. Ioanna, hi.
Welcome, Christiane.
Thank you.
I'm going to read a little bit your bio, and then we're going to go straight into the conversation. So Christiane is actually from Austria, all the way from Austria, right now based in hot Greece.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. So Christiane today is 67, born in Austria, youngest of 6 women. She has a son who is 27 and was a single mom since her son was 8. She calls herself a practitioner scholar, so like that. So she's not an academic learner, but rather she learns through direct experience and experimentation. She's always driven by her strong curiosity about humanity and how it all tunes in the evolutionary dance of the universe. She's a global nomad since many years. So now you're in Greece. And professionally, Christiane is a seasoned entrepreneur and a global pioneer in the field of self-organization and purpose-guided work. A host as well and facilitator of spaces that allow for emergence from the unknown, which I think is brilliant, all this stuff. So the past 15 years, she has spent them to better understand the shift in power systems triggered by self-organization and the effect this has on the people concerned. Christiane sought an approach that would address the disconnection and disruption she witnessed in herself and others, and through this work discovered exciting new stories of love and power and their implications for people and the planet. And that's actually her calling. Her personal purpose and calling is the unification of love and power. So she actually let go of old stories to embrace the liberation of what is emerging in their place. And she's written a book called New Stories of Love, Power, and Purpose, a global invitation to experiment with the unknown. So this was out in 2022, right?
22.
So in her offerings, Christiane invites clients from all over the world to join her through experimenting in their lives with the question, what becomes possible when we act from a unified love, and power, in service to purpose and the more than human world. You have to explain to me this one.
Yes.
The more than human. So welcome, Christiane. It's really great to have you here. And
Yeah.
we met a few years ago in France, huh? And
Yes.
it was at the time you were working with with the self-organization systems and evolution at work, right?
Yes, with evolutionary work and ENCODE. But let me first thank you, Ioanna. It's an honor to be here and to be your guest here around a topic that I believe is really important and wants to be heard more in the world. So thank you for your work. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I'm glad that you receive this as an honor, because I really truly believe that this is an honor for women to talk about these years in their lives and to actually bring it together with the rest of the storyline, right? That's
right.
I'm sure that you've been working on. So today we're going to look into love, power, and purpose, which is pretty much your keywords, and put them together with menopause and how this turned up, how she turned up in your life. I call her a she because in many ways I personify her, and I find that menopause is a force of nature. It's an energy that comes through our system and really shakes us up. Not all of us as women, but they can do that. So I'm very curious to know about how she turned up, and like we go back to that place, that time in your life.
I think I've been kind of thinking a little bit about that before we started talking, and I wasn't even quite sure where it begins, because it's kind of it kind of creeps in or it flows in, it kind of, and I would say I was fairly late with my menopause, in my late 50s. So about 10 years ago. And I don't know whether it was because I was so focused on lots of things, and didn't give enough attention to my body, that I suddenly, it was like sort of, oh, okay. It was like sort of a surprise. It's like, oh, that's what's happening. And I wish at the time I would have had a woman to talk to like you, which would have helped me to be more present with what was going on with me and my body. So, and that's one thing. The other thing is that I guess I had a very mild kind of flow through this phase and into the phase that follows. I didn't suffer from many physical side effects. So I did have hot flashes every once in a while, but maybe only over the course of not even a year, or maybe a year. And so it treated me mildly. She treated me mildly.
Nice.
I would say that. And now, in hindsight, I do see what she invites into life, but in hindsight, and I'm sure we're going to be
That's
talking
why
a lot
I like
about
the
that.
idea of the retro journeys, because like you said, it's like like in adolescence the hormones change as well. It's a few years, the change. It's not like from one day to the next. So, and these things, is good to see them looking backwards. It's good also to be a little bit more conscious when we go through it, and this is a whole point of being a little bit more friendly with menopause and talking about her in nicer ways, so you experience the whole thing in a more natural way, that is not such a shock when it arrives. So it's yeah. So you said that, yeah, so it's to connect some dots. So do you want to carry on and tell us about it? How you find
Well, there was another thing that came up for me, which I think is also some sort of an insight in hindsight. I do experience the phenomenon of menopause still, or at least I did 10 years ago, and not so much today, but still a huge taboo. I know that I know is maybe a little bit too much, but I have, in hindsight, I have that sense that I really didn't want to talk about it. And I just wanted to sort of, okay, it's okay, that's what's happening, kind of. No need to get all excited about it, or no need to, I think I was kind of diminishing it a little bit in what it means, because I'm, not consciously, but I think in a way it's like, okay, when you go through menopause, it's like you're out of the game, kind of thing, to put it harshly, right? And I think that's sort of that's a cultural thing. That is wherever, I think, I can't say where it is and where it isn't, but at least the cultures that I experience, and I do travel a lot, I would say mostly it is something that is spoken about in your doctor's office and not otherwise. So I think I just went along with that, and not wanting to put too much attention there, because I was like, I was very busy. I was traveling a lot, and I had a lot to do anyway. And I was glad I didn't have too strong symptoms. And, eventually I was on the other side. And it's like, go on, just going on. But I do realize now in hindsight that it would have been nice to welcome her, to be with her, to integrate her, and to understand what is going on with more awareness and with higher consciousness about everything that stands for. And that's why I appreciate your work so much, and why I'm happy to have this conversation, because I think it's something that, it's this one of the many natural phenomena that everything's there for a reason. And so let's celebrate it.
Yeah, I mean, the celebration is definitely but what I personally did, I appreciate everything that you're saying, and I have two things to say to the fact that you did not put too much attention. I think this has to do a little bit with the generation. So you're today 67, so that was 10 years ago, 57, right around that time.
Yeah.
And at the same time, even 10 years ago, the world was very different to today in terms of about even more in depth about any process, right?
Yes.
There is something to do with, there is an opening that is taking place, that now there is more space for this. But I would say it's not so bad not to be too hyper. We need to be careful how we approach the whole thing and know our process, not really amplify just the symptoms and just everything it does, because it can be a little bit of of course your body is changing, so there is a process where a lot of things are getting into a new position inside us. So I would say there is a it's important to honor it, but maybe I think the work where I work in is a little bit the underneath. It's like what is behind all these symptoms, what is really going on, and access it in different ways, different angles. So to see in what ways this kind of energy appears in our lives, and more to start speaking that language of change, because it's the language of change and it is within us, and we always change, but we just think that we are like set and we get used to our identities and to the ways we do things. So, but we are wired to change, and change is something that is important to have a relationship with internally. And I think it's the kind of process that comes that is biological and biospiritual. It's on all levels, on the mental, the emotional, and it does tune you in new ways. And I don't believe the doctor is the one that can really only help you, unless they are the nice ones that do exist, that do both. They do exist. I'm glad they do exist. They are more holistic as well, and they do the proper medical science, but also they know the human body and the human psyche in a little bit more depth. It's more than this. But I like what you're saying. So would you like to say a little bit about because you said that was around, did you also have your period later in your life, or did you get your period when you were older? Or it was around 14 or something, or 13, or?
I think I was 13.
Okay.
13. Yeah. Okay. So that was fairly normal, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would like to come back to what you just said, if I may, about whether the doctors or whatever. I think I'm completely aligned with you that it's not about making it like a topic that needs to be taken out and yelled about and blah blah. So I agree with you with that. I think it has to do it for me. I think if I were asked by someone who's like just beginning to do that, I probably would say in short, something like, wow, embrace it and be with it, kind of, and just speak to your body and listen to your body. So I think that's because I think, so from my own experience, I think that as we go through menopause, it is like a portal that opens, to me, it opened me up more towards the wisdom of my body, to what it was before. And I'm not sure why that is. It doesn't really matter. But I think that before I went into menopause, looking back, I was probably still more driven by beliefs of how I have to go about things, and how, some of those cultural metaphors that we abide by. And I believe that when I went through menopause, what changed for me was a deeper relationship to myself, and this is also, this is where my deeper work with love and power emerged from that field, and so I I I do, and I do really appreciate that shift, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
That it feels almost like, there's this what you're doing. I mean, I was on a spiritual journey for a long time already, and trying to increase my awareness of self and other and all, that kind of thing. And then I feel like through menopause everything went kind of it's like sort of, it kind of goes down deeper a
Right.
bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that's how I experience it in hindsight.
That's beautiful.
Or her.
I
Yeah.
like to call it, I call her hair.
Yeah. I like that. I'm trying to correct myself when I say it, and then I say her. It makes it more accessible.
Very feminine.
Yes.
It's feminine energy. And
Yeah.
it's beautiful what you're saying, because it is that there is in our wombs, in our reproductive system, that's for so many years has been for fertility, procreation, all the hormones of the cocktail. It's really a lot of energy from our body and our lives, and we have to live with these ups and downs every month. So when this system stops, yes, there is an end, but it's not a failure like it's called. It's not a failure. Why is it a failure if it happens to every single woman? I mean, I would call a failure is something that's more of the odd one out. It's not a failure. It's rather what you describe, this sinking in. I find that creativity is like you're going to your own womb of gestation and creativity, and these bits of wisdom is like there is more, it sinks in, so you sink more. You're not up here, you're not just working from the head to the heart, but it's like more incarnated, more flesh and bone to you go deeper in, and what you describe, it's really that's what it means to be more you, in a practical way, what you just described.
It's more, and I also, it also, what I want to really, and I'm, again, maybe we can do that together, just call out. I know women who are desperately afraid of growing older. And I think that is such a, not just women, okay, but it's this general of growing older. But let's stay with the women. But, and I think it is more crass culturally for us women, this whole anti-aging kind of thing, this whole youthfulness, this whole craze of staying fit, staying young, staying slim, staying all this kind of it creates this fear that as you grow older, that you're not going to fit into that anymore. You kind of sort of, as if you were stepping out of this active realm of society. And I think that is no. It's like, oh my God, no.
Tell us.
Because actually, I think I have accessed a level of freedom and flexibility and So do I have to be careful about the language that I use here? It's like, I don't give a shit. It's like, yeah, and I know that this has increased drastically, and that this kind of freedom has increased exponentially in those last 10 years. And it's exciting, it's fun. I learn, I keep learning. I talk to a lot of young people, and I don't have the feeling I'm out of it, so it's like, no, please, don't. There's fear is such a bad life companion. And there's the one thing you really cannot change is tomorrow you will be a day older than today, no matter what you do, right? It's like, you will be. And why worry about it? It's just really, why worry about it? Tomorrow I'll be a day older. It's what it is. So, and I think culturally, menopause for women has been sort of declared as the threshold to go into being old, or at least not.
We cannot go.
Or older. You're on your way out. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Not yet. And whenever I'm on my way out, that's just what does that even mean? It's like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's beautiful what you say.
Yeah.
And I love that you say it, and I love that you're another example, because we lead by example and modeling ourselves, the women, the beautiful women that we are. And there's the it's just beautiful that what you said, the words anti-aging, that's just it's like you're against aging, right? Even the definition of this. And
exactly.
That's communities like the biohackers, that they try to get to hack their bodies with all sorts of processes, techniques, hormones, this and that. And it's interesting because they don't use that word. They use the word longevity, and that's the new hook now. So longevity is like how to, which is a better way of talking about all this, because the point is, yes, we do grow tomorrow we're going to be a day older, and at the same time, if we take menopause, like the few years of menopause, there's another 40, 50 years. There's a long time after that. It's not the end of it's not, so the whole point is, how can I be healthy? How can I be good with who I am, with myself, have healthy relationships? If I'm doing a job that is not for me, or and then it's always the finances, of course, there's all this stress that we all have. So and there's a lot of things happening in the world. There's a lot of stressors out there that can accentuate a process like this, that bring things up a bit. But I agree, it's to me, the way you enter and you approach this, the preconceptions and the images and the what you think of all the women, whatever this was, maybe from your mother or from your family or from your culture or from the narrative out there, whatever, this can influence so much. Even how severe everything is going to be or not, because there are changes, but it's your attitude, or your relationship with it all, and how you embrace it. Embrace is such a beautiful word. And I want to weave this together with what you call the emergence from the unknown, because the way I present her is that that there are all these things happening, and there's all this alchemy, and there's like you're cooking in her, I see her like, wow, things happening inside. And at the same time, the reason is because underneath and is undercover inside us, there is and sometimes it's a part of us that's unknown to us.
Yeah.
There is this part that is the wiser. There is more power, there is more love, there is more of you, there is more creativity, there's all this stuff. And that's what the invitation is. That's what I see, that's the bigger calling from menopause. And the question is, do you want to answer her call? And I think you did, because let's go to, you said that she at some point you unified the love and the power, and that your book is all about these new stories. So that's part of the things integrating and settling, and everything we've done up to this point, it finds its place, right? In bigger and smaller ways.
It's really what you just said, kind of it closes, it brings or puts puzzle pieces together for me in a way that it hasn't done it before. And that is that probably I had to go through menopause to actually be able to access the deeper knowing of what led me to write my book. Because as I was listening to you just now, I have been doing a contemplative or a spiritual journaling practice for many, many years now. And I would have to check out my journaling, but at some point it shifted from just like a daily journal. It shifted to, I integrated lots of the learnings that I'd done over the time, and I started making it an inner voice dialogue, starting to speak with my source, and then starting to, my source told me to invite my love, and then invite my power, and then invite my saboteur, and then eventually invite my creativity, and eventually invite my inner child, the abandoned aspect of it, and others. And I have, and I developed this deep practice, daily practice, to go into what I call my inner sacred space, and go into this space to dialogue with these voices. And I'm actually, in the meantime, I am offering this as a practice, and I'm just finishing an 8-month program now at the end of June, and I'm all sentimental because 8 months is a long time to work with people on that deep level. Anyway, but when I listen to you, it's like the voices, it's the love, it's the power, it's the creativity. And then, of course, because of the spiritual aspect of it, there's source and whatever, that whatever that means, different things to different people. But really, I think it was when going through menopause, then that this journaling practice got into a completely different depth of quality. I have to go and check that out. But it feels like this is like, feels like this would be about 10 years ago. And then eventually I decided I would write my book. And because of, the experiences I had, the dysfunction, the disruption of ours, it's not so much how power, it is, of course, how power gets manifested in ways that are disruptive. But behind that, on a deeper level, is the stories we hold about power, how we define that. And that has after my own journey, that was the source of my interest, where I went on a quest for my purpose, and where the unification of love and power came through. And it's really interesting. I'm going to have to check out the timeline around all this, because it feels like that I think this was like the creative energy that kind of opened up.
I love this, and it would be great to check for you, like, because these things just go, and then there's a new level of integration. What I want to go on is that, because you worked you talk a lot about power, and you worked for the last 15 years or so with the self-organized systems, and the whole point was the distribution of power, right? And then there was equity as well, but a big part of it is to shift the relationship to power. So in many ways, what I do with menopause, you worked a lot. I also worked at some point on power specifically. And it's true, is the way you define things and your relationship to it, and the way you play, or you relate to the whole energy of power.
Yeah.
It makes a difference. And so tell me a little bit about I'm more interested the shifts in power, but personally, if you're willing to go there more. How did it play out for you? Because as you said that your antidote is like power with heart, power with love, right? That's your antidote. That's how you balance things. But what was your personal journey? And if this, how I don't know if we can weave it together with later what happened, because you wrote a book that I think there are, even before, maybe what I would call perimenopause, maybe the years before, what maybe were personal power shifts for you that took place. So basically, when menopause came along, you already addressed a big chunk in some way. So it was not, because it was for your life, it was a big theme. So what is a big theme gets reviewed.
Yeah. Yeah. So the thing is, I have to start by talking about my book, because I wanted to answer this question through writing my book, my experience of shifting my relationship to power. And so around that topic, and of course, having sort of the unification of love and power was always the topic, because it's my personal purpose. But of course, it's relating to the experiences of so many people who are trying to shift into another relationship with power through systems. But coming back to the book, I started writing it, and I worked on a structure, and I had it all figured out, and then I started writing. And then after, I still think in the second chapter, I realized that something else wanted to be written, and that book started to write me. And that took me back, way back, not the few years before menopause or anything. It took me way back into my early childhood, and into some experiences that I had revisited already, but they wanted to be revisited.
Yeah.
And they wanted to be seen written, and it was difficult. And it was painful in the sense of not, oh my God, what horrible things happened to me. But it was like painful because at the time it was painful. And I felt like always holding and embracing my child that experienced those things, and cry a few tears with her, and then, and then move on. But I really had to I really had to dive into my pretty much entire life to understand that journey of power, what it meant for me, how I learned to relate to power in the way that I did for most of my life, how I was challenged by it, and how, as we're speaking, I guess it was my menopause that was an important part of actually really. I think I was already going through the shift, but I think it was painful because I wasn't yet quite there. So I think it was like it was I was getting a sense of that this wasn't a healthy way of relating to power. So it took a while, but over my experience over it's like mainly the last 10 years, so it has something to 10, 12 years probably, I have explored this topic on a different level. So probably yes, it is that time. I've never really related that, so I'm really grateful for this conversation, because I do think it is related.
Yeah,
and I could then, I had this feeling, I think I had this sense of what the unification of love and power can mean after I was completely overwhelmed by the topic, of course. It's like, whoa. But then I started, diving deeper, and especially the writing of the book. And my practice, my journaling practice, the journalog that I describe in my book, a very important companion, and that journey enabled me to really understand that power is something that we need, that we have, and that we have the choice to step into and manifest. And now, what does that mean?
Yeah, what does it
and
mean?
I think, yeah. So, and I think that from the perspective of the feminine energy, that in our culture, the question is, how can feminine and masculine energies be in a natural dance and flow with each other? And when I say energy, that includes power, and that includes a lot of things. But looking at the topic of power, and that's a question, how we define power.
Do you want to?
Through my writing, I've done so much reading and learning and research on the topic, and I ended up feeling most resonant with Paul Tillich, who was Martin Luther King's Dr. King's doctoral advisor, and I think he was either Austrian, Hungarian American, or he was a philosopher and a theologian, I think, and his definition of power is what touched me most, and actually of love too, which then kind of helped me tell my story in the way that I did in my book. So power is the drive of everything living to self-realize.
Yeah.
And then he says, with increasing intensity and extensity, so ever more and ever wider, right? So the drive to self-realize. Now, if we have authentic power, which we have always, we have the power to realize what is ours to be in the world. And we have that drive. And if we connect with that power, while understanding that we are connected, and that's where the love comes in. To me, love is that what connects everything. Love is pure connection, right? If I express my power without feeling connected to everything, I will start with increasing intensity and extensity. I will start to be reckless and abusive for, in my self-interest. But if I, on a really deep level, understand in the more than human world, in the greater scheme of things, in the web of life, I am a part, interconnected, interdependent, here for a reason. And I have the power to self-realize that reason. That's where the purpose comes in, right? And I know I am connected, and my role is to be in service of the interconnected and interdependent greater whole, more than human world, web of life, whatever word you want to use. Then I will be powerful, and I will want you to be powerful as well. Because together, how powerful can we be to be in service of it all? So this is the short version of it.
I like your short, long version.
Well, sorry, was it too long?
It was beautiful. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
What can I say? Beautiful words, and I totally agree. And I talk about the strong women of our times, and you are incarnating this. And this is, there is also, you talked about the masculine and the feminine, and there is a more masculine expression of power and a more feminine expression. And as a woman or as a man, we need to embrace both.
Yeah.
And it's definitely an invitation to the self-realization is to really be whatever it is that drives us, and really come out and be this. And I'd say all your story and everything you mentioned about how you came to this and you wrote your book, it's how can you fall for what they say, that you enter as you become an elder, you enter your idle years. How can you fall for this when this is living inside you? It is.
Yeah.
We need to hear it, and we need to be with this. Right? It's.
Yeah. I feel now I can feel a deep longing for a while now for sharing. And it's an elder energy. And I think, and I have this deep longing to be in community with really where every generation is present.
I love that.
I was at a gathering last year in September where we were about 60 people, and the youngest person was a guy who was, I think, 29, and the highest aged person was a woman who just had her 80th birthday while we were together. Yes. And everything in between. And this nourished my soul and my heart and my body and my mind, and the conversations we had with, cross all these intergenerational dialogues and conversations, and the people I hung out with around the fire pit, and that was like, for me, this was only 3 days, but for me, this was like a dream come true, because I could I could have these conversations with these younger people, and I realized how much I can learn still from these conversations, but how this was like a sort of a loop, a really, really conversations based in so much mutual appreciation. And from a number of younger people, I've been addressing this for a while. There's a longing of the younger people for the same thing.
Exactly. That's what I was
To
going to
act,
say. They
yeah,
probably felt the same as you did. Yeah.
yes. And not just in that gathering, but I talk to people and I ask them, and I find there's so much resonance. And I think what I I'm always careful with speaking about this society has it all figured out, or it all has to be like, indigenous cultures and everything. It's like this labeling. I don't like that. But I think what let me speak for myself. What I hope that our society, whatever. I mean, I sort of, I am part of a Western society, right? But I think globally, and you'll find it more or less in different parts of the world, but to actually find new forms of intergenerational community, like building smaller structures, not so much this anonymous,
Mm.
separated way of, beehive living, but really, even while that might still be the case, in social dynamics, to start building collectives that consist of multi generations. That's like, that would be, oh my God. And there are many young people who are actually engaging and setting up initiatives and working in that way. That makes my heart sing, honestly.
Beautiful. I love it. And I totally agree. Then it is, it's regarding aging, being with younger people is what makes you alive. So it's the aliveness that makes your skin look better.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's truth.
Yeah.
There's how, and there's the weaving and the continuity between
Yeah.
generations. That's so important.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
important. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful what you're saying. And
You know,
yeah,
I'm, yeah.
yeah, we could go on for hours, but we're gonna have to wrap it up in not too long.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah. No, I was just thinking. So I'm sort of in a liminal space at the moment, because all the topics that we talked about to me are really important. Um, and I feel, and I think that's probably also sort of in the aftermath of menopause, even though it's a while ago, that there are a lot of topics that draw me, and I'm kind of holding that space to see in what direction it's going to pull me. And I don't know. I'm holding the unknown and the uncertainty, but I am writing about conscious collaboration, because that it's nourished from how we do work together, but that is way bigger. It's bigger than just how we do work. That's how we are together. So that's an interesting
Oh, I love this
question.
because I had two questions to finish. One, somehow you answered it earlier on, because one of the questions I ask all women is, what would you say to a woman going through menopause now?
Mm.
And I think, if I recall well, you said that to the energy to embrace and
Mm-hmm.
and receive it. And maybe
Mm.
you want to
Mm.
put a
Yeah, I think that, try and make it short, I do think it's important to embrace it and to to process and embrace all the cultural programming, the fears or whatever that might come up with it. Am I going to get fat? Am I going to lose my thin waist? Am I going to, am I still going to be sexy? What the hell? It's like, this is all cultural metaphor. It's programming. So, and I think, yeah, just embrace, and hold that space for what the new that comes out of this beautiful being.
Yeah. And for
There's so much richness after it. Yeah.
for the new to arise, what you said earlier on is you probably, I don't know, by 50, I mean, even if it comes later, we've all done, depending, very different kinds of work, but then revisit. Sometimes we need to revisit it, and it's really the time of your life that is a big revisit with a big R, which is a kind of like, it's a review revisit. It's not that you're going to get stuck there again. It's another review. I think you mentioned this earlier on. I just wanted to add it to what you were saying.
Yeah, that's true. And review, not in a sense of being regretful or being feeling about the bad things that has happened to. I heard a quote actually only today, a quote from Jack Cornfield, who says, "Forgiveness is finally letting go of the hope of a better past."
Yeah, it's so.
And I really love that. So it's revisiting, embracing, healing, and letting go of the hope of a better past. There's no use.
And as you said in your book, new stories.
Yes, that gives rise to new stories. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was your question that you ended up. I have another question for you, because I know we're going a bit over, but what becomes possible for you now? Because you ask your question is your big question. What becomes possible for you now, right now? It can change in a month. We don't care, but right now.
Yeah. Right now, my love and my power are inviting me to step even deeper into my intuition and sensitivity.
Ooh.
And that is a big call.
Ooh.
And I think it has a lot to do with power, and with love, of course. And so that's what's up for me at the moment. And it is a clear invitation. I do my journaling practice. It is a clear invitation to trust.
I love it.
And I know that I have been neglecting my sensitivity for most of my life. And the sensitivity allows for intuition to express itself at any given moment. And my practice at the moment, and my invitation is to deepen that and to embrace that even more.
Can't wait to see what that's going to bring.
Me too.
Yeah. Excellent,
Yeah.
Christiane. I think we had a good round. I loved our talk. And I'll carry on, of course. Thank you.
I'm so grateful for this conversation, Ioanna. Thank you so much for inviting me. I have learned something that I will now go and explore further, because it's just a whole new connection of topics that I know are important. And I'll let you know what comes up for me. I'm so grateful. Thank you, Ioanna. And thank you for your work. All righty. Okay. Bye-bye.
Enchanté.